Hi there, everyone. This is my first conference talk ever, hopefully this goes well. Let me tell you just a little bit more about myself. I'm a relatively younger guy. I got started early in the industry, but I'm almost 30 years of experience despite not being that old looking, hopefully not that old looking. And I worked at Microsoft, I've worked at Tableau, Salesforce, a dozen smaller startups here and there, and consulted with a number of different startups. And so secrets management is something that is near and dear to my heart. Every team that I've ever been on has either struggled and climbed and finally got to the mountaintop and success with it, or has just stayed in that struggle depending on the culture. So this talk is listed as a pretty technical talk, and it does have some technical elements, but this is kind of a bit more about human nature and culture within your teams and how that you make people successful. So we have the standard disclaimer here. These are all my opinions. They're not RSA Conference's opinions, that sort of thing. So just to kind of orient us in this problem, right? And for some reason my citation is cut off, but a lot of breaches do involve, most breaches involve a human element, and most breaches involve credentials, right? Or not most, half of involve credentials. So this is a very real thing. The human element, we keep trying to make better and better tools and processes to get this human element, to get it out, to do it with something else, like AI is big, may take over and try to get rid of this human element. But my belief is it's going to be with us. A huge portion of the industry is new people every year. I think I'm back.
You're back.
Yep. So we do have a lot of junior devs. This is a junior dev issue. Well, I often find a lot of junior devs are actually more diligent about this, right? So they're deathly afraid of being the person to cause a mistake. So often this is senior devs doing this just as much as junior devs. It is a lazy developer issue. Well, partially, right? With diligence, they could potentially solve this. But the reality is the modern devs working with so many systems, with microservices being a big thing, with big production cell-based architectures being a big thing, and so much complexity that even the best devs can overlook something. They're often under pressure to deliver. And then if you're woken up by a page at 2 in the morning, then you kind of are doing your best, but you're sleepy, and it's really easy to make a mistake. And I literally talk to security people that says we just need more corporate security training. As an aside, the corporate security training sucks. I think we all know it sucks. Whoever is working on that, they need to work harder. So we find secrets in source code, configuration, documentation, scripts, all over the place. They get committed, and then they're exposed to the world. So if you make it too hard, the devs will break free. Sometimes they'll subconsciously break free. Sometimes they'll do it knowing what they're doing and for malicious intent. So these are common reasons I've seen people try to break free. It takes me 2 weeks to set up my dev environment, and I need some production secrets maybe to even do a dev environment, which is obviously a mistake, but I've seen that in certain environments. If we just copy our secrets here to debug this bug that I'm having at 2 in the morning, just this one time, it'll be okay, right? I'm not going to forget to delete that. I need to connect to the production database to solve this bug, right? And they leave the secret around. There's no chance that .m file will get committed or leaked. And I need access to that secret, and this is kind of the most onerous one that we'll talk about. I need access to that secret for this deadline by Friday. The team that owns it can't give me access in time to get it from wherever it's stored currently. I'm just going to copy and paste it into my secret store. So I'll tell you about one particular story, but I'll warn you, I'm going to see if anyone will engage and come up to a mic and tell their own horror stories, because as bad as I think this one is, they're certainly worse. And this didn't lead to a breach, but just leads to the complexity of the problem, right? So to keep the names innocent, I'm not going to name them, but there was a large SaaS that acquired a medium SaaS. And obviously, very quickly, the new large SaaS had a mandate that said, we've got to rotate all secrets every 90 days, and we need to move to a central secret management system. That medium SaaS set, just to give you a thing, they had 1,200 plus lines of config and secrets per environment. Roughly 25% of that was secrets. And then they had 16 global production environments, 10 in staging, and 20 plus dev environments from 25 different sources, internal, third-party customers, owned by over 40 teams with 350 devs across that. So giving you that, guessing time, how long do you think it took us to even just get an inventory of all the secrets across those environments? Any guesses?
3 months.
So it was better than no, it wasn't better. It was 4 months just to get that inventory, right? So that 4 months, how do you think we tracked that inventory? Excel. Yeah. So, and I will say that we think that was out of date roughly 10% of the time, that Excel, which 10% felt pretty good, actually. How long do you think it took us to prepare for our first secret rotation?
5 months.
Actually, better than that. We actually did 5 weeks, which was good, but it was an all hands on deck situation. Like, I think 5 months when you have it as some back burner thing, that's about right, but this was stop everything you're doing and go fix this. How many just to perform a rotation, and again, now we got to do this every 90 days. How many dev hours do you think it took to perform a rotation across just production? 640 hours. 640 dev hours. Because the system was not, geared to rotate some of these, they had to be rotated in order. So imagine that we had to do like dry runs of this. We had to then set aside basically 2 to 3 hours per environment on like a Saturday, and we had to do this every 90 days. And every team that was involved had to send a representative for that time to make sure that this was rotated and came up, and then I'll tell you, sometimes it didn't come back up, right? Different services had to be booted in different order because none of it was designed for rotation. And then for the secrets management platform, how long do you think it took us to move everything over to a central secrets management platform?
6 months.
Yeah. I would tell you they just finished. I left this company a while ago, 20 months. And that is a company that acquires other companies. So the minute they acquire someone new or some other thing, they're back in the same boat again. Right? So anyone have their own kind of either rotation or even credential leakage story they're willing to share? That's fair. It's the lunch session on the last day. So we see these insecure practices everywhere. So one is we just have too many static secrets. We have lots of systems where we could be using dynamic secrets, but instead we use long-lived static credentials. And if those get leaked, then we have to go, hopefully we have an inventory, but if we don't have an inventory, we've got to go find everything and rotate them. Because of that, the key management and rotation is operationally challenging or in a lot of cases overlooked entirely. I'd worked with a system that I was consulting with, and they had not changed a single password in 4 years. So now hopefully as security executives, you're more on top of things than that team was, but I'm often surprised at even larger companies where this is still a problem and it doesn't even happen. And then, most solutions today do not integrate with OIDC or other dynamic provisioning systems, which leads to these long-lived static secrets. Even when you're using some secret managers, a lot of them are operationally complex. They lack, they don't really have managed or easily self-hostable. I say easily because some of them are self-hostable, but they're really, really a pain in the butt to set up. And they often are coupled to like bespoke storage and authentication systems. So the existing state of the art in some places is really hard, but often these are not even like, solutions you can buy. The amount of homegrown systems that I've run into to build this thing, and I've been on teams that have built homegrown solutions to this problem, is pretty high. We have basically secrets and configuration sprawl everywhere. So especially again in these big companies that acquire other companies, we have just data stored in mini systems, sometimes unencrypted, but a lot of people are trying to do the best practice if they're storing it. And so you have this lots of application-specific logic to go get this secret from there and this set of secrets from over here. And this team owns this secrets, and so they're behind, a different secret management system. And you're pulling those in from multiple sources, or you're just copying and pasting them. Often we see different, so I work for Pulumi. Real quick, who's even heard of Pulumi? One, wow. So Pulumi is an infrastructure as code tool, but we're branching out into this kind of secret management space. We're like Terraform, except we let you code in your own language as our main kind of claim to fame. So we know a lot about how people are managing secrets for infrastructure and how they're also doing it for their application configuration. Sometimes those are one and the same, but often those are two completely disparate systems, right? And so a lot of times they will use Pulumi config as, for example, to store their config for infrastructure, and we have secure config, but that's yet another system compared to everything else that where they're managing secrets today. And so all of this becomes super challenging to secure and audit access, and often you'll have audit teams that are focused on infrastructure and audit teams that are focused on application, or just one of those gets overlooked. And then I think the main problem, and that was our problem in our inventory, is that secrets are duplicated and correspondingly leaked all too often, meaning that the damage from them is kind of both larger and more common because these secrets are reused over and over within the organization. Another story is we went to just, luckily this was relatively low impact, but we went to just go change our GitHub access tokens because GitHub moved from kind of broad access tokens to fine-grained access tokens. And we had one token that obviously had been copy-pasted everywhere into all these systems and all these bots. And some of these bots ran once a quarter, right? So we went and we tracked down as many of them we can find, but it took another like 6 months for everything to kind of run through and find out, oh, we cut out all the last one because these processes that are not happening all the time. So this is the kind of problem. It's like it's leaked and then someone there's like a set it and forget it attitude of like, it works. And then you hope to find that over time and you hope to fix it, but there's secrets that no one, whoever created that secret has left the company. This is like a very common problem. And then again, that applications, when they're written, they're frequently coupled to whatever their secret management store of choice. So that makes, if you have more than one secret management store, that makes it very kind of difficult to centrally create policies and difficult to enforce. So whatever you pick, you need something that can have a full inventory. And so lots of the secret management systems that are out there can have a full inventory. They can even kind of, reference some of the secrets even if they're somewhere else. So for example, maybe you're running, vault secrets. You can kind of say, well, you can add metadata that says, well, yeah, this is a vault secret and we want to know about it, but the real version's in, Google Secrets Manager because the application was coded to get it from there, right? So the inventory, I'm just curious, could show of hands, who feels that they have a full inventory today of their secrets? I expected a couple. Right? how long do you think it would take you to get a full inventory in your organization today? Like less than 3 months? Couple? Less than 6 months? A poll? Less than a year? And then I'll just assume the rest of you are over a year, right, to get a full, so the time to start is now, right? Go get that full inventory, whether you go the spreadsheet route that we started with, or you invest in some sort of secrets management system. This is really, really important to do. But then that comes into the culture of like, okay, a dev's going to go do something, he needs a new secret. How do you make that process where they go add that secret at that time to your inventory, not forget, not hope that they read the process doc that says that's what you got to do. How do you make that your day-to-day process? Ideally, you're moving any static secret you can if there's the capability. Now, some systems don't have this, but you're moving it to a dynamic secret with a short lifetime, right? Now, a lot of the clouds, you can do that by default, but by using kind of IAM, like you can use IAM even to access your database. I don't know why more teams don't do that, right? You can use all these things that can give you those static secrets, and that's built into a lot of your cloud providers. But a lot of the secret management tools have support for helping you generate dynamic secrets as well. Ideally, you have authentication in RBAC. Some of the secret comes because teams have no choice to put it in a place where there's liberal permissions of who can read that secret. And then if someone can read it, they can say, well, I need it for my purpose, and it kind of gets out of your control, right? So ideally, you could say, hey, a really good example is I'm on the billing team, and I've got, the API key to Stripe, right? And I need to make sure that that's under my control. How can I do that in such a way that other people need to read that, and they may need to use it outside of my team, but I want to control and audit that use. So the best secrets management systems have that capability. And then, of course, auditable, who's accessing what at what time. A newer concept that a lot of secrets management systems are talking to is the idea of secret zero. This is all well and good of and this is like your personal password manager as well, right? You have all these secrets there, they're secure, but then what happens if your kind of access password gets leaked? So in a lot of these systems, by continuing to use dynamic secrets in OIDC, you can actually eliminate that secret zero so that you don't have, again, one long-lived static secret that you have to worry about. And then ideally they are versioned, not just versions to see audit history. So versioning is important to see, who changed what when. That's a core capability. But one of the keys to versioning is the control blast radius, right? There's been a number of cloud outages where someone changed some sort of secret or some sort of config file and then kind of pushed it to the world, and they weren't ready for it for whatever reason, and they took it on, and then the whole system broke. Like you can trace a number of AWS outages to that root cause. And so being able to version something and then roll it out and then potentially roll it back is a key capability. But I've been talking about these things. I want to talk about the dev experience, right? Because that's the key here. Like the dev and other people that are not dev as well, you want it integrated in their day-to-day flow, right? I don't know how many people that I've worked with, we were using Vault, and there's nothing wrong with Vault, right? But they only used it for production secrets, and they didn't need production secrets day-to-day. And then, they get paged, and they're like, I forgot even how to log into Vault. I forgot where in Vault the secret is that I need to do it. Because it's not part of their day-to-day workflow, right? And then they often do something different in dev, and that something different might lead to, committing a secret because it's not part of their day-to-day workflow. And then ideally you can consume it from anywhere, like basically a console, a UI, an SDK, push via webhooks to be able to kind of consume these secrets. You don't want them in a locked box. So Now this is a bit of a hot take. This is my personal hot take, but it's a bit of how our products are engineered. A lot of these secrets management systems say these are for secrets, they're not for config. You could, of course, jam config into them, but that they're not built for that, right? So they create all the kind of onerous nature of having to deal with secrets. And they say, if you want to put config in here, fine, but like we're going to treat it all like it's a secret. But they often belong together, right? Like config will reference a version of a secret, right? Config and secrets will need to go out together in order to work. And then again, if you treat them differently, like devs may be working with the config and then go, oh, now in the middle of my flow, I want to change something. I got to stop what I'm doing and go to a different system, right? That's not going to allow them, and they're going to, over time, kind of hate the secrets management portion of it. So this is, this talk isn't specific to our product. We have an ESC product, but it talks to kind of what we think is kind of the future of this, which is the ability to kind of compose. So we have a product that lets you build environments, and environments can include secrets and config. And the example of environments aren't just what you think of dev test prod or prod west 2, right? An environment can mean anything that's meaningful to you. So you can say in this case, here you see on the left, we have AWS kind of production. It's owned by some platform team. Platform engineering is a big push, right? To have these teams that own the things that are really important. And that has the ability to log in. So this is, and I'll show this a quick demo, but this has the ability to log into AWS and generate a dynamic secret. Here, this environment is the prod team and billing, and that has RBAC that the prod team controls of who can access billing. And then it has the comms team, which is the email agent like MailChimp or something like that. And then those can be both imported into prod, and then other specific instances can be brought into prod, or it could be a prod microservice, whatever it means to you. But the key to this is that each of these is a unit of control for RBAC and auditing. And they can all be brought together. So here I'd like to switch over and show you a demo. And this is going to demo our product, but I'll try to talk to some of the competitors and what they do as well. So here I'm in the Pulumi ESC product. ESC, I may have missed it, stands for Environment Secrets and Config. Oh, sorry. There you go. And I'm just on this Environments tab. And right now I've just got a few environments listed, but I'm going to ignore those for the moment. We're just going to create a fresh environment. So we'll call this dev. Now we default by showing you everything that's possible, but I'm going to kind of wipe that away. And I'm just going to do some key values. I'm going to say RSA is true. And by the way, we have a table view editor if you prefer that kind of experience. But and then we're going to say secure. And I'm going to put in a secret here. And I'm going to say, I sure hope so. And then I'm just going to save that environment. And here I get this preview, right? And so now that that's saved, it's replaced. It's encrypted with a key per environment. So if I copy paste this to a different environment, it's not going to work. And I've got a couple key values here, and this is my dev environment, right? And so, and I can open that, and I can see what's in there. Now let's say I want to go use that. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Okay, so we have a ESC command line, so I can do ESC and open conf, and I called it dev, right? And because I did an open, I can also read it without reading the secure values. but it able to produce that. So that's like, you know, able to see a secret, but that's not super exciting. Let's say I want to project an environment variable. So I could take anything, so I'm just going to say, you know, foo equals hello, and then project that as an environment variable. And then now I can say ESC run, and same thing, cleave RSA conf /dev, and I'm just going to say, you know, print the environment variables. And there's a lot in there, but well, it's somewhere in here. Foo. So yeah, I can't see it. It's in there, but I'll show you a better example of this in a second. So that's just a static environment, but you can see it was super easy for me to go put in a secret in there and have that available. But in production, I may be like, I may not want Pulumi to manage it. Like in this case, we're storing that secret, but maybe that's not what you want. Maybe that secret already exists somewhere else. So let me show you, first let's show a dynamic secret. So I'm gonna clear here, and I'm going to say, show this login. Let's go back to environments. So here I've created what's called a provider in Pulumi, where I've said there's a login, and I've linked it to an AWS role, and I've set up an OIDC trust relationship between Pulumi and AWS that can assume that role, and I can apply a session name that includes my username and login for auditing purposes, and I can set a duration. So here I'm just going to show that login. Actually, I'm going to show, I have the same thing, but in a read-only, so you can have different flavors. That one can look at some secrets, but this one is just the same thing as a read-only. And back to the environment variables, I'm projecting the logins as the normal AWS environment variables. And when I do ESC run, RSA conf /read only, and I'm just gonna, this is a read only against S3 only, just for demo purposes. I'm just gonna run AWS S3LS, and that uses those credentials and is able to do that command and see. This is just our demo account, so these are all just demo buckets. So what did I do? I used that run to connect to that environment, get a token. In this case, it's a read-only token, and then run an AWS command. And so this is not something unique to Pulumi. This is something that I know Doppler and Physical do as well. But this has become a game changer for devs that have used this product, both within Pulumi and then some of our customers. Because we've had devs come say, I never wanted to use the user management tool, but because I can just tie it to this and I can quickly do a run and get the right credentials, and if I don't have access to that, it'll shut me down, right? I can do a list of environments and see what I have. So it becomes like a little environment switcher, right? So that one hit Pulumi, but these are actual Pulumi test environments. But and so I can do an environment switcher, and I can switch between things very quickly. And so that becomes very easy to use. But what I showed you that one secret that's in the dev environment that we built this first time. But I can look at the prod environment. This is doing something similar. So this is importing that login that we looked. So this is the composability. I can define that login. And then it's using that login to connect to AWS Secrets Provider. And then it's getting a demo secret that I have here. And so that doesn't live in Pulumi. It lives elsewhere. And so what happens here is that this becomes a broker to be able to go get secrets elsewhere in the system. And so you can have the same access level between, you could have secrets live in Google today, and there's access a facade, and then it can be in Pulumi or it can be in AWS, and you can migrate things simply. So the dynamic stuff I know, Vault, A-Keyless, CyberArk, Doppler, and Physical, they do some of those, but you have to look, everyone supports kind of different downstream clouds and things like that. So this is not unique to Pulumi, but to be able to kind of project this in as a facade is slightly unique. So I can do ESC run. Actually, I'm just going to do open. Let's see. So that pulled in the access keys, and that access key is going to go away fairly quickly here. And it went ahead and got those secrets out of the secrets manager, and it pulled them down, right? And so the key to this is this really helps with your inventory. In order for devs to get access to your secrets, they can put this here, but they don't have to move it. They can choose to move it later, but they don't have to move it right away. So we kind of treat this as kind of a proxy server to your secrets. And then a number of other companies, not just us, solve the secret zero problem. And so we do that with an OIDC trust relationship. So I've got an OIDC trust relationship set up here with GitHub. And I've set it to allow it to issue a team token. It could be a personal token, a team token, an organization token. And I've set up kind of the policies of so here I've restricted it to be, from the Pulumi GitHub organization, and then from my specific repo. And there's a number of other things in that case. And then, so if I go over to GitHub, and I go over here to Actions, we're making this a little cleaner. I was doing a bunch of test runs here, but let's look at and then show you the workflow file here. So here, I'm just, from GitHub, I'm getting the GitHub token that's issued on every kind of GitHub action deployment. And then we're going to clean up this and make this easier, but then I'm fetching a Pulumi token. I'm exchanging it for a Pulumi token using that OIDC trust. And then I'm logging into Pulumi, and then I'm just running an LS against that set of environments. And so if I run that, let's go up here. I run that. Always takes a second to pop up. So that's doing all that token exchange. And so we have no long-lived access token, just this relationship is set up, and it can be locked down as much as you want. And so you can see that it got all the way to the list environment, and it's listing those environments we just saw. So this is something that I know that A-Keyless, CyberArk, and Vault also support, but it's pretty critical to not just create one point of failure with the way you access your secrets manager. So with that, I am done. So we can kind of move into questions. I do apologize. I got ahead of myself. There is the apply slide that I forgot about. My key call to action, go create your inventory, start now. Unify secret access as part of development. Consider a central secret management solution, but one that your devs actually like and want to use. And move secrets from static to dynamic. Game day rotating secrets, and try to reduce the chance of the human element.
Okay, so I have a question. Assuming, do you think a certificate is a secret?
Do I think a certificate is a secret? Yeah, I mean, I think it's got some special properties.
Okay, so assuming that certificate is a valid secret, do you have any integration points with a certificate lifecycle manager?
Right now, we don't. We've not tried to tackle on our product, and I think if you look across some of the products I mentioned, they don't as well. The main one that does pretty well in that space is Vault,
Okay.
but that has the,
Because I think it's an interesting use case. That's why I was just asking.
it
Okay.
is, and it's something we would love to tackle, but it's not like our current, in our current feature set.
Hi. So I have a question on the inventory. You said we need to take manual inventory, right? It will take a few days or depending on the infrastructure side. So it is something we can implement account discovery or some secret discovery, which is automatically just grab those based on the endpoint.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is there's just so many forms they can be in, right? Like different application configuration, formats that reference them. Boutique applications across the, I mean, you can go, okay, I know how to find secrets out of, say, GitHub, and I know how to find secrets out of other applications that have like a defined place to put things. But I think there's just, beyond that, we found, so in that really big secret rotation project I told you about, we found a reference to a secret embedded in like a longer path. Like it was just a string, but there was a reference to a secret, right? Because they were doing some sort of interpolation thing that those app devs wrote, right? Like, so I do think someone could go write some tools that can get, some portion, but I would fear that that would be, really hard. AI may save us there, right? Like, where AI can kind of find them through, but like, I've not seen anyone focus on that discovery.
Yeah, and once we integrate those secrets with any secret manager or any tool, like you said, CyberArk or might be, then that automation will take care of that password automation and all, right? Because it will talk to application code and just upgrade the secrets there, so we don't need to worry about that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the challenge there is still we need to discover them. They might be hiding somewhere. They might be hard coded in script, right? We don't know them, so that is something we need to have.
Yeah, that's the key piece is the current discovery. There are tools that can discover stuff, so there's like Git Guardian. It's scanning your code, looking for secrets you've leaked and committed. You could maybe repurpose that to look at things you haven't leaked and committed. You're like, no, this is secure, but it's like in a weird format, right? But I've not explored that space too much.
Thank you.
All right.